Paula, tell me about you. You've said that early detection saved your life. How did you find your cancer?
Well, I actually was 42 when I was diagnosed. I had gone for my annual mammogram since I was 40. I don't have it in my family, so I never thought anything that I would get it. I have three brothers. My mom, I just never realized. I never thought once. I just figured I'm going to be getting my checkups and going for my, things that I had to do for just normal. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm a little bit nervous for some reason. But when I had gone in for my when I went in for my mammogram, they said they found something, and I did have dense breasts, so I wasn't overly concerned for that either. They then asked me to have um, the ultrasound, which was fine, and then they said they want to do a biopsy, but they weren't concerned. Like he said, the doctor that did my biopsy said, I'm going to call you in 3 days and tell you everything's fine. So I was like,
What a
okay.
stupid thing to say.
Yes, I know, and I heard you guys say that too, and it's so irritating because then when he called me back, he called me on a Friday afternoon at 2:30 in the afternoon, and I still remember that day, every moment of that day, and actually every moment of that weekend. That he called me at 2:34 in the afternoon. I was in my office by myself, and he informed me that I never thought I'd be making this call, but you have breast cancer. And I was diagnosed with triple negative ductal carcinoma, breast cancer, and it was very small, which is great because I did catch it very early. I did not know anything about cancer, and I think my biggest thing since I've been diagnosed and since I've gone through everything is I feel so strongly that there should be something. I don't know what it could be, but something should be in school systems to talk about major diseases like cancer or MS, because being diagnosed with something that is truly could kill you, and then you have to like listen and get all this information, cancer 101 I called it, like thrown at me, and then I had to make a decision what to do with my body, and I am not the expert. And my doctor, I ended up doing everything in Connecticut. I had an MRI, and the doctors told me what I should have had done, and then I decided to go to Dana-Farber in Boston. I have a friend that had a friend that worked there, so I went there, and the woman there that I ended up working with said, "Why would you have to know about cancer? You're not a dentist. You don't know how to fill a cavity. You don't know about it." And I said, "I understand that, but for me, having to make all these life-changing decisions, and having no knowledge, or then hearing I'm going to, in my head, all I heard was I'm going to die. So I didn't care what you were telling me. I was dying. And it was a Friday afternoon, so I couldn't speak to anyone until Monday. So I laid up in my bed and curled up in a ball, and I had cancer from my head to my toe. And you couldn't tell me otherwise. So, that was like the hardest part for me. I ended up with Dana-Farber, which was amazing, and I did 19 trips back and forth to Boston. I was diagnosed on September 26th, and it was 5 days before October 1st, which was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I have to say I truly drowned in pink quicksand. I couldn't take it. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I love it now, and it's so amazing, all the people coming together. But then I was like, I don't want to have cancer. I don't want to talk about it. But then I changed, and I am very open. I work for have a normal 9 to 5 job, but then I teach Zumba, so I have a very large community of women that I see every day, and they just have been lifting me up since day one. But I they ended up driving me back and forth to Boston along with my husband, of course. But we listened to Zumba music, and it just kind of helped me. So I ended up having I actually went through like different options of what to do. Like we all kind of, I did the genetics testing. I was completely negative for all of that. There was the tumor that I had was so small, and it was right near my nipple, that they told me I could have a lumpectomy with radiation or a mastectomy with chemo. And like I said, was not familiar with everything, so I did a little bit of research, and like I said, I could be completely wrong, but I've heard that radiation could be difficult down the road, so I decided to go with the mastectomy with the chemo for more than just that reason. My tumor was very small, but to the left and deeper into my chest, there was another spot that was nothing. But then again, that tumor was nothing 3 years ago as well. So I decided to have the single mastectomy when I did it in Boston, they actually offer what's called DIEP, DIEP, which you're gonna laugh at me, but I like to find the positives in everything. So this is actually a tummy tuck, and they take the fat from your stomach and they create a new breast. So I was like, why not get a tummy tuck out of it? That was
Listen,
just,
girl, I just went through where they take fat from my thighs and inject it into the top of my breasts. So there's no laughter here. That's like your penance for what you've been through. You should get a tummy tuck and get a new breast at the same time. Nothing
exactly.
wrong with that.
And it was, I mean, I woke up and the first thing I did was like, oh look, I have no stomach left. So it was great. But I did have issues because when they did, I had the mastectomy first, so that was November 19th, and of course, I lost the nipple because they have to take out everything within a certain amount of distance from the tumor. And they took out 5 lymph nodes, and they were all clear, which was fantastic. But for some reason, everyone is different. My breast tissue is very thin. And so my original breast tissue, the rest of my breast after surgery, kept dying. And I have what's called an ugly boob collage. I have pictures of my breast as it was getting worse and worse and worse, and it kept dying. And so they had to keep doing debridements where they'd go in and they'd literally cut holes in my chest. So I have like literally one part where there's a hole where you could stick your hand in it, like a half moon. It was actually like an ugly smiley face. It was a half moon and 2 eyes. It was really gross, but I am all better. So I've met so many women through, our Connecticut Komen's breast cancer page, and along with other friends that have told me that the one thing they told me is, whatever you're going through right now, in 2 months or a month, it's going to be behind you and you're going to be fine. So that was how I kept thinking about it. Like, this is so difficult, but and it's true. Look where I am now. My hair's coming back curly, which was another thing because I had straight hair, so I'm really excited to have curls. But it's all behind me, and I'm stronger and healthier and back to Zumba and back to life. I do hate the fact that I have breast cancer, or I had breast cancer, and I think of that every once in a while just driving around and, living my normal life and think, it doesn't make any sense. I want to find a way that no one will ever have this again. I don't know if there's a way, but I want to try.
I think the other thing that's difficult, which I heard you just say, and I know I say it all the time, is especially when it's very fresh, is you just said, I have breast cancer, but you don't have breast cancer, you're in remission. And it's really difficult. I find people correcting me a lot of the time because I also try to find as many positives, and I try. I mean, sometimes it's almost I go too far making jokes about things because that's how I find my own support is through humor. So I would be at work and something would go wrong, and I would just be like, oh, I have cancer, I have cognitive impairment, or but you don't have cancer, you had cancer, and I think that's the first step is really letting it go and moving forward and saying like that it's past tense. And it is hard because, yes, your hair is starting to grow back and you're starting to do Zumba again. Now, did you do Zumba through your chemo? Like, was that something that you kind of focused on to get you through?
I did, actually. Well, when I was diagnosed, I had lost 80 pounds from Zumba before I was diagnosed.
Good for you.
Thank you. And I became an instructor, and I love lifting people up, so it was great. So when I was diagnosed and I was telling my doctor, actually, when I had my biopsy that day, I said, he, finished, and I'm like, could I teach my Zumba class tonight? And he's like, never in my life have I ever heard anybody ask me that. And he's like, if it doesn't hurt. So I sat and held my boob through the entire class, and I taught. But when I was going through chemo, it was a little bit harder. I mean, I would go and maybe do a song if I could. Toward the end, actually, during chemo, I didn't because I ended up being very sick. I had 4 treatments of AC, and that was it. So I know in my eyes I was extremely lucky. I wanted to say that when I was diagnosed, and my girlfriend, who was 39, was diagnosed a month after me.
Wow.
So we got to kind of do the journey together. Not that I'd ever want anyone to ever go through it, but when I was diagnosed and she was there for me, and then she sent a message saying she was diagnosed, we kind of held each other's hands through the whole thing. So she's actually just starting her radiation now. She finished her chemo. But I mean, and I wanted to say that with the deep procedure, which I thought was kind of scary, is like you guys were talking about PET scans, is right around Thanksgiving time, because my surgery was in November, they had to do a scan of my stomach to make sure what they were working with was going to be fine. And they called me and said, I don't want to make you nervous, but we found some cysts on your bones in your stomach, like on my hips and stuff, and they wanted to do a second look. And right then and there, I was again covered with cancer. But really, there are these little cysts that everyone has, and you find them when you do a scan for something else. And it ended up being absolutely nothing, but it's very scary to know that your body is doing so much. They told me that just meant when I'm 80 or 90 that I'll break a hip. You know what I mean? Like I'll have brittle bones, but I don't know.
I guess you know what to expect now.
Yeah.
No more Zumba after, you're 65.
Let's hope not.
I think the one thing that's also really hard is I do have a great support system, but everyone's like, it's going by so fast. And I was like, okay, maybe for you, but for me, like, right now I'm in the lull, and then I'm going to have, my reconstruction, and then I have to wait again, and then I'm going to have radiation, and school's going to start for my kids, and I just feel like, not that I'm missing out, because I do participate, but it's just like, I just feel like this last year has just been a lot of waiting. Hurry up and wait. Get this done and then wait some more. And it's just like, I just want it all done. And about being a cancer survivor, I remember asking my doctor the last time I was there, my husband was like, how do we know she's cancer-free? And she's like, well, you were cancer-free when you had all the cancer removed on February 4th. And so it's hard when you're going through all of this after process to really think that I am cancer-free. It's just the preventative stuff that I'm doing.
I will tell you something from me, because I am all finished and everything's behind me, is the last time that I went and had my treatment, I was more lost than when I was diagnosed. When you're put out back into that real world and you have to kind of go do that thing and not have anybody check on you, it's very scary. And they had I had to go to an appointment where it was like, that after you're done, like how you're supposed to feel. And I felt very alone. Like I wanted to go back to my doctor once a week. I wanted them to keep looking at me and watching me, and they don't. They
Right.
drop you off.
Well, I think I'm very close to people too.
Yeah.
I feel lucky at all, but after radiation, I do have to do hormone therapy, so I know that's like a long-term relationship I'm going to have. So I think in some ways I'm like, oh, well, at least, I know like every 3 months I'm going to go see my doctor, and, if that's some sort of consolation of, resting my mind, I guess. As crazy as that sounds.
Nothing crazy.
The other thing is, look, everyone here is young, so regardless of, I remember I did 12 weeks of Taxol and then a year of Herceptin. And I remember that last day of Herceptin, and it was like, everyone's like, oh, today's your last day, and it's so exciting. And I was so overwhelmed by the thought. And even though I had gone from going once a week to every 3 weeks, I had the same nurse for the last year who did it every time. She was the only one who could find my one vein that remains that I hadn't blown. And I remember having to say goodbye, and it was like and I'm not an awkward person. I just got very awkward and weird and was like, one of these weird air hugs, and like had to get the heck out of there, because you become very, very attached to these people, because they're giving you your potentially life-saving medical treatments. And I mean, you don't know them from Adam, and I think the sad part is that you probably won't. Hopefully you won't ever see them again, if not to say hello. But the good news is that because we're all younger, like, you're kind of put into a different category. People are going to look at you a little differently than they would, someone else who didn't get cancer before they were 60 years old. So, you're still going to see these people more than you would see, like, people ask me all the time, like, who's your primary care physician? I don't have one. I don't have a primary care. I have 47 specialists, but I have no primary care doctor. And, if I'm sick, or, I call my oncologist first, or, if I, you call these people, they're always going to be around,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. But it is a really weird feeling when it's over, because then you're like, well, are they going to remember me? Like, I feel like we had this connection. So it's weird. It's like being in a relationship. I mean, for me, I'm in I did my mastectomy almost a year ago, and I just did another reconstructive surgery this past Thursday. I mean, I've made a joke to my plastic surgeon that, like, I'm just going to keep coming back because I'm so attached to him. Because, I would never, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say I would never have gotten plastic surgery, but it wasn't something I was thinking about at, 28. And now I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe I should start doing Botox or something because I feel like I see you every like 6 weeks. I don't know how I'm gonna, I become so attached to them there.
Sure.
But it's all part of the process.